expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the streaming platforms, public access channels, the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, or the program underwriters.
Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Bully face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy, love sincerity. So I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically through hallways and alleys.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. I am your host, Minister Cat, aka Kitty Rose, and I'm excited for today's show. I know I say that every week, but I'm truly excited every week because as I go through this next chapter of my life, I know that you guys are going through several next chapters of your lives. So I get excited coming into the studio each week because I know that the topics that we bring up are not only healing and beneficial to me, but it's healing and beneficial to all you guys. So what's this topic of the week? What's the topic of the week? Drum roll. This week's topic of the week is learning to adapt. Learning to adapt. Now, what do I mean by that? Because learning to adapt is not the typical just learning to just go with the flow of things. Lately, I've been talking to you guys about my business, about what it's like behind the scenes of the life of a business owner, the life of an entrepreneur, the life of an artist. And for those that have been following me, or at least watching the show these last couple of weeks, you know that I started the Kitty Rose Lifestyle back in 2006. And when I brought up the topic today about learning how to adapt, I wanted to direct that towards learning how to adapt in your business, in your industry, in your field in which you're in. Not just get along to go along or go along to get along, but learning how to figure out how to still control your own narrative by doing the things that you want to do, but still working along with the trends that are happening at the time. I've been fortunate that my background was in marketing. I went to a performance school, but when it came to high school, I decided that I always wanted to be behind the scenes in production. So learning how to adapt gave me the ability, because of my background in marketing, understanding how to flow with different market trends and learning how to adapt with those market trends as they happen. So, in order to do any of those things, I believe faith comes first. So before we talk about that, let's go to our first PSA of the evening.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
So I left you guys with faith. What is faith? My trusty reasoning from the scriptures. I love this reference book. The Jehovah's Witness organization, they made this. When did they make this? They made this in 1985. And I've always found this to be a great reference point when I want to find some quick spiritual connections. So when I looked up the definition of faith, if we check the scriptures, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 shares with us that faith is the assured expectation of things hoped for, the evident demonstration of realities though not beheld. True faith is not credibility that is a readiness to believe something without sound evidence or just because a person wants it to be so. Genuine faith requires basic or fundamental knowledge, acquaintance with evidence, as well as heartfelt appreciation of what that evidence indicates. Faith is strengthened when a person acts on God's promises and then sees the evidence of Jehovah's blessings on what he has done. If we check Psalms chapter 106, verses 9 through 12, it gives us that scriptural information. And then an illustration to help us understand that scriptural encouragement is, perhaps you have a friend of whom you would like to say, I trust that man. I can count on him to keep his word, and I know that if I have a problem, he will come to my help. It is not likely that you would be saying that about anyone you met for the first time yesterday, is it? He would have to be someone with whom you had a long association, someone who had proven his dependability time and again. So it's similar with our religious faith. To have faith, you need to take the time to get to know Jehovah and his ways of doing things. So as a Christian or as a student learning about the blessings that Jehovah God gives to me by taking the steps to acknowledge and live my life accordingly, I apply those same techniques to my business, because it's one thing to adapt to the new market trends, but again, if I take that equation of Jehovah God out of the equation, then how successful will I be as I adapt during the times necessary? So, when I started the Kitty Rose lifestyle in 2006, I had a retail space. So it was kind of easy to have something, that was one way, a brick and mortar that you got a chance to come and do direct sales business with me. But as I wanted to market to a larger audience, I knew that I needed to do more than just have this retail space. I knew that I wanted to extend the conversations that I was having when the women were shopping and do more within the community with all these people that I was meeting. So I started to produce events, because that's where the Spirit was moving me with the relationships I was making in my retail space. Then from being a Harlem business, I went to learning how to use now social media, because we had got MySpace. And then when MySpace came, we got Facebook. We got Twitter, but I never really got into that. But when all these different social media platforms started to come up, I had to figure out which ones was comfortable for me. I had a blog that I used as a website. I decided to come into Facebook, even though I loved MySpace. But I had to figure out, do I want to tweet? Do I want to do on Pinterest? Do I want to do this? Do I want to be on this platform? And I had to figure out, well, that didn't work for me. I'm not comfortable here. I like what LinkedIn does. I had to figure out, and then from figuring out what works for me, I began to start teaching people in Harlem how to effectively use social media for their business. So now it's still under the Kitty Rose umbrella, but now because of what I'm doing with my business, now I'm in a teaching position. Now I can show people, outside of gaining clients to market their business, I can actually start teaching businesses using my, skeleton approach to now how to do things, right? So now we coming into 2011. From 2011, I'm producing events in the community, but now one of my customers is the director from the Mary J. Blige Center. So from that, now I'm doing events with the Mary J. Blige Center. I start working with the Mary J. Blige Center, still under my umbrella, but an involvement of what I'm doing to stay the course, to still adapt in the transition I'm in now with my kids, now as a girlfriend, not a wife anymore, a new venture with a new organization, all these different things still happening within my company that's just additions or add-ons to what I'm doing. I got some more information from you. Let's go to another PSA and then I'll come back with it.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Since we're in a new month, I'm hoping you guys are liking these new PSAs that I put together for you guys. It's about representation and sharing information. So again, going back to sharing information in regards to how I continue to learn to adapt, not change. I want you to understand, not change, not waver, adapt. So now I'm working at the Mary J. Blige Center. From that, you know, I come back to my retail space. I end up going downtown. My store ends up closing. I go down south to help my brother with his business. I come back to New York. One of my mentors has me start doing some cinematography work for some of the projects that's happening in Harlem, because now I'm a member, in addition to the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, I'm a member of an organization in Harlem or in New York called Unveil Unlock. So the owner of that Unveil Unlock is Alethea Brown. Everyone who follows me knows my side piece, my side love, my sidekick, Alethea Brown, who also is a mentor of mine, who now, from doing gallery shows in Harlem, started working with me, mentoring me as an artist. So now I have a mentor in this field, because I had another mentor who helped me start my own business, which was Victor Millsap. He used to work directly with Abyssinian, and he was the VP of technology. And he said to me, Kat, you know, you always working and helping everybody else, you know, brand their business. Why don't you use those same skills to your own business? And he actually was the first investor I got to believe in the Kitty Rose Lifestyle and fund my process or my journey on. So when I got Alethea as a mentor, another person in Harlem, she started putting my work behind the camera. And then I started doing some cinematography work, again, still under the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, because these were things I was doing for my business. I had to do videos for my business. I had to do marketing commercials for my business. I had to teach myself different platforms for my business. I had to take certifications for my business. So all these things that I was doing for my business also now became ways that I was able to monetize and now use these services for other people to pay me to teach them and give to them. So again, never wavering, never doing something else. It's so funny, if there's that saying, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. And some of us don't like that, because what I've learned is that being a jack of all trades doesn't mean that I'm not a master of none. That actually means that I am a master at all of them, that I'm able to have the ability to have these different jacks or these different trades that I'm able to do all at 100%, all at a level 10. There's nothing I do that gets or less than my business, because whatever I do with this client always leads to another client, another project, another endeavor. Again, still fortifying what I'm doing, but in me learning how to adapt, I'm able to stay the course. I'm able to stay relevant. I'm able to stay in existence. I'm able to stay in business. How about that? Speaking of business, this is one of my sponsors / underwriters / investors. I met this woman on LinkedIn. So when people say that social media doesn't work, they're wrong. Because again, when people are on social media looking at you, they're looking to see how you are going to stay consistent, how you are adapting to what's happening and around us as a business. And they have been supporting me, I want to say now, for 5 years. So amen. So again, it's learning how to adapt, not necessarily changing your mission, but learning how to maneuver so that you can still do what it is that you want and not lose momentum, not lose faith. So that takes me right into what you know, the Jesus moment. The Jesus moment takes me into maintaining faith of the unseen, but also of the seen. If I've been in business since 2006, and I have received certifications, and now my first award, what I'll talk to you guys about next week, but certifications, awards, recognition, trips to California, trips to Africa, beautiful children. That's the best accomplishment. My children. The fact that I was able to be a full-time parent when it was necessary during their informative years. Those are all blessings that I saw, that was exposed to me because of staying the course in my faith. But staying the course in my faith, but also realizing that I had to adapt, not fight everything that was happening. Even when it came to COVID, I fought COVID for a minute because then everybody got into the Zoom world. Everybody was doing their talk shows via Zoom. I was a rebel. I did not want to conform. But as we all saw, eventually, I did. Eventually, I got on a StreamYard, and, we eventually got back to the studio. But I had to learn how to adapt when I was ready. When I was ready to put that cap on and said, okay, we're in 2021 and COVID's happening and the world is changing. What do we do? How do I adapt? So that's what it was. I had to learn how to not necessarily conform, but adapt to what I needed to do to now be in this new element, this new presence of production, this new practice of the next chapter of my life. So I want you guys to understand in this Jesus moment that we can easily become discouraged because you have these up and downs. And remember, like we learned from DJ Cheris, these things from left to right as we stand in the middle happening to us. And the thing about market trends is not only do you have to learn the market trends, but your audiences changes throughout different aspects of your business. So the audience that I might have had at one point may not be the audience that I have now, and is definitely not the audience that I want to reach. So now, knowing that I have this one-woman show, I Am You, coming to Harlem, I know that I want my generation of people to come and buy tickets. But I know that I really want the young, the millennials, the 30-something, the 20-something-year-olds. I know that I want that age group in my audience. So now, learning to adapt to a new audience, I am not changing, but I am adapting to the world of Instagram, the world of TikTok, because I know that the audience I want to reach is on those platforms. They're not on Facebook. They're not on LinkedIn. So I have to realize that I have to go to where I want that audience that I'm looking for. But again, in looking for that audience doesn't mean that I have to do everything that is on TikTok. Doesn't mean I have to make stories and reels and do these elaborate things. Now, it does mean if I want to do that and compete with everyone else, but I have to figure out what's comfortable for me and adapt to what's comfortable for me. But I got something for you. I got something special in the Spotlight segment. In the Spotlight segment, I think I have a conversation and you guys are wanting to hear because Omarr Salgado is in the studio today. Omarr Salgado is the head of acquisitions from Dame Dash Studio. He is the owner of Fast Forward Films. He is Grown Man Sport Ambassador. He is the Chief Executive Officer of New Swing Entertainment. So with all those hats, I know that he has had to learn how to adapt. So I know that he has some tools for us because in order to have those many titles and be successful, you have to learn some things. So I'm looking forward to the segment with him. When we come back after this PSA, you will be introduced to Omarr Salgado. All right, guys. I see you when we come back from this last PSA for the night.
Man, it's lonely. Like, going through life's lonely.
There is the therapeutic aspect of music, just expressing how you feel. I'm going to talk to Howie about his feelings, make it into a song.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do,
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches, me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
to the left, to the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. I can't lie and say it was easy. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the next chapter where we discuss shades of gray. I am your host, Minister Cat, aka Kitty Rose, and this is our Spotlight segment, and I'm so happy to finally have this guest on, because I'm gonna tell you, the devil's a liar. We've been trying to have him on for like 3 or 4 months, and he actually wasn't even gonna come into the studio, but I think his guilt felt a kind of way. And he was like, let me just come into the studio because this girl been on my neck. So let's all welcome to the next chapter. And I'm not even going to try to say his last name right now because now I'm nervous. So the last name is not going to come out right. But wait, Salgado. I might be able to say it. Let's welcome to the next chapter, Omarr Salgado, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here.
Finally.
I'm so glad that we finally got it together.
Yes.
Right?
And it's funny because that goes right along with the topic of the week, talking about learning to adapt. Mm-hmm. You know, even though we've been trying to get this, we both made a commitment kind of somewhat to each other. So even though it took some time, we were still going to make this happen. Because you could have been like, all right, sis, my schedule really don't allow. And I could have been like, could have given up, which is what so many people do. Like, I'm not gonna beg, I'm not gonna, keep calling somebody, but you know that if you have a goal, you know, you're going to keep at it. And that's what we've been able to do even in our business. You know, I've been in business since 2009, and learning to adapt to the market trends is how I've been able to maintain still being alive. I know for you, your bio is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? How old is being self-employed? Or because you have many different companies, so I don't even know what to say. Is how old is Fast Forward? How old would you say is being an entrepreneur for you, or business owner?
Yeah, I'm going to say probably since 2012.
Okay.
Yeah,
so right along, not that far.
Yeah.
So on your bio it says that Mr. Salgado is a serial entrepreneur and talent magnet. Serial in the sense of multiple at the same time. You can't focus. Why a serial?
Serial in the sense that, like they say nowadays, you need to have multiple streams of income, right? So for me, it's just not about being a filmmaker. It's just not about being an actor. It's just not about being a distributor. It's all of those things encompassed in one, you know. So for me, it's like everything. That's what it's about.
I agree with you, because I've heard that saying, you know, to have multiple streams of income, but I don't think that means multiple streams in different areas or different genres of the world. For the Kitty Rose lifestyle, you know, from doing one thing and then growing into now broadcasting and television and film, and now my one-woman show, it's all like an evolving or still evolvement, but still all kind of the same thing under that niche of the Kitty Rose lifestyle. So I definitely get you having different things under still this one brand, which is you know, again, learning to adapt. But what I also noticed in your online activity, because again, you know, it gave head of acquisition of Dame Dash Studio, Chief Executive Officer of New Swing Entertainment, Grown Man Sport Ambassador, owner of Fast Forward Films, yada, 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 yada. You know what I'm saying? But on June 30th, 2022, you made a Facebook post, and you said that I spent a lot of years trying to outrun or outsmart vulnerability by making things certain and definite, black and white, good and bad. My inability to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability limited the fullness of those important experiences that are walked with uncertainty. Love, belonging, trust, joy, and creativity, to name a few. Life is not black and white. There are some gray nuances to it. Embrace your vulnerability and celebrate your flaws. It will let you appreciate the world around you and make you more compassionate. You know, you're not a big striking man, but you're a big black man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Vulnerable, that's not something that we connect to our black men or to men in general. With all the titles that you represent, why is it important for you to slip in these subliminal messages every so often on social media?
So when I first started doing it, it was more so for myself. It was more so for me.
Okay.
It was giving me a reminder of what I needed to do. You know, without shame, you know, I suffer from depression and anxiety, and as a black man, as a man of color, it's very difficult for us to accept that there's a weakness that we might be dealing with. You know. What we call the weakness, right?
Okay.
But what I've learned is that weakness is actually my strength. It's actually my strength. It's actually the thing that allows me to maneuver and be able to really communicate and just, you know, with all walks of people, you know, getting into that vulnerable part of who I am.
Amen. How did that affect you, or were you aware, like, were you diagnosed with depression, or did you self-diagnose yourself? When were you able to admit out loud that you have to deal with that? Because I don't know if the word is suffering if you're acknowledging and then actually dealing with it.
I started to realize it when it started to affect my family. You know, it started to affect, you know, my son, my wife, you know, the people that are around, even my mother. Like I was just very I was being very distant.
Okay.
You know, I didn't really want to open up to anybody in regards to what I was going through at the time, and I didn't understand it. I didn't know what was happening with me. You know, so in the beginning, it was just something that I was just trying to figure out, and then I really started to go and seek help.
Okay, so are you in therapy or did?
Currently, yes,
amen.
I am.
Okay, and what did your wife say? Like, she was like, "Oh, you don't need that," or "Thank you God you did it," or like,
No,
what was her response?
She was very supportive.
And then, what example do you think that has set as you being a father to a son for him to see that therapy is okay, or is that a private matter that you go through?
No, I don't hide anything from him.
Okay.
My son is 22 years old, getting ready to graduate out of college. You know,
Amen.
Clark, Atlanta.
Yes.
You know, and so when it first came about, my son is very intuitive and he's very in tune with the family. My son is all about his family.
Okay.
And so he knew something was going on with his dad. And you know, at some point we sat down and we had a conversation, and I just told him. I told him, listen, this is what I'm dealing with.
Wow.
And this is what I'm doing to fix it.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Something else I found that I felt relatable, not necessarily directed to me, but directed to like people that are very close to me right now. On June 26, 2019, you say, when you grow up with siblings, you can be like, isn't this weird? Isn't this funny? Do you agree on this, or do we agree? But you have, because you have some reference, you have some point of reference, some touch tone. But when you grow up an only child, everything is internalized. I'm the oldest of 3 kids, and last night we had this, me and my middle brother had like an argument because we were remembering childhood experiences differently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so we were having an argument about it, and then my boyfriend, because he was raised by himself, you know, he was like, I can't relate, but I relate to not missing having those bouts of arguments or disagreements with a sibling because it was just me. Right. So when I saw that you said when I saw that you wrote this, I thought that was interesting, you know, because if you're an only child, now you have one son who's the only child. How has those traits of growing up as an only child affected you, and then affected how you can implement or raise what you've learned about being an only child with your son?
Well, you know, being an only child, at first it didn't really bother me until I got a little bit older. I was trying to, you know, just a lot of my friends grew up with siblings. They had siblings. So I was able, like, you know, I was able to watch their interaction. But for me, everything was all of, like, whatever happened, whatever issue I got into, I had to deal with myself. You know, I couldn't, there was nobody else that I could talk to about it, right? So internally, I had to deal with that. As far as my son, I spoke to him about that recently to say, well, listen, how do you feel about being an only child? And for him, he's like, I'm good. Doesn't make no difference to me. He doesn't, and I think it's because he has a lot of friends.
Okay.
You know, and I also grew up with a lot of friends.
Okay.
So I think that helped in some sense, you know, to kind of have that ability to vent or get, you know, maybe some opinions, you know, that you needed to get whatever you needed to get worked out.
Okay. I'm going to ask you something that the Spirit is moving me to ask you. I wasn't going to ask you, but it just came on me again. So I'm going to ask you without sounding critical. And this was something I didn't prep you and tell you about. So you are an actor, but you are also a filmmaker. And in everything I saw, it was talking about the empowerment of our people, the empowerment of telling our stories. That was very important to all the companies that you work with. So the question is, all of our stories need to be represented. However, do you feel that there's a responsibility to the type of films that you make if we continue to emphasize the stereotype of the shoot 'em up, bang bang, motherfucker in the streets, you know what I'm saying? Like the honor ups, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't see Burn. I saw the trailer, Sweet Burn. So I know Sweet Burn is not like that. But then when I was looking at like your trailers, you know, you're playing a cop or, you know, a detective, or I was wondering about the imagery that you seem to be a part of, not all, because there was another movie where you're a preacher or something, or a minister.
A doctor, I think it was a doctor.
Right, that you're with the chick from Soul Food or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I was a lawyer.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
not everything is shoot 'em up, bang bang type of thing, but. For me, that's what I see. You know what I'm saying? That was my imagery until I started looking and saw more stuff that necessarily the network represents. But yeah, if that was my general stereotype imagery, are you afraid of that, or is that a part of our story that you guys want to emphasize on? Like,
no, I'm definitely not afraid of it, and it is a part of our story. It is a part of some of our stories,
okay.
right? It's not the full story, but I think it's something that should be talked about. You
don't think we glamorize it though?
I think in some cases it is glamorized. That's in some cases, but what we do need to remember is that this is art.
Okay.
And as an art form, we should have the freedom, right, to be able to express that.
I agree about that, but is it more of the capitalist component of, well, if that's what the people want, let's give them what they want? Because every time I see when we do try to have positive all programming, that we don't get necessarily the amount of eyes on there. So maybe sometimes we feel like, well, yeah, we'll put a little of that type of content out because we know that heals the soul, but we're going to put more of this kind of content because we know that this is what people want to watch. Is it strategic when it comes to the type of world we live in, or is it just that's how it happens?
I just think that's really how it happens. I just think the networks, and it really depends on the network. Every network has a different type of audience from my experience, right? So some networks, they thrive on that type of material, and other networks don't. Other networks, they are more, what's the word? They're more, they're a little bit more picky as to what they're going to choose to put on their platform based on whatever image they want to sustain.
So how have you learned because your position necessarily doesn't deal necessarily with day-to-day content creators. You're more on the business end of deals being made?
No, I deal with both.
Okay.
I deal with both. So what I am, right now my title at Dame Dash Studios is head of acquisition. So what I do is I kind of filter what comes into us, and I'm able to look at it to see what platform is going to fit better on. Because that's the truth. Like these films, certain films are going to do better on certain platforms.
Okay.
There's certain faith-based films, more urban films.
Okay.
Maybe something that might be more action-driven or what have you. All of those films kind of fit in a different place.
Okay. So then how do you, as the head of that department, how do you then figure or filter out what is going to go where?
I have to watch it.
Okay.
And I have to feel it. I have to see exactly what it is.
And then how do you determine what goes with Dame Dash, what goes with Fast Forward, what goes with Grown Man? Like, they're all different entities, even though they work under one Omarr. How does Omarr decipher, like, do you get different emails for different things? Like, how does it?
Yeah, I get a lot of different. So Fast Forward is more production.
Okay.
So the Dame Dash Studio side of what I do is more of the distribution.
Okay. And then in learning to adapt when it comes to the market trends, how have you been able to bring those, I guess, little nuances like social media, because now production has changed, from when you first came into the industry as a music person, as a music business. We know the 90s was it for us, you know what I'm saying? In regards to networking, money-wise, it was such a huge area for us when it came to connections and networking, and everyone who's now hitting it, you know what I'm saying? Because we did all that work then, but it was a lot easier. Now when I came from the clothing industry, and back in the day, I can go to a brand, I can go to a licensing company and have everything already done. I had my marketing, had my celebrities wearing, had my stores already. I come in with the work, so it's easy to get the deal, right? Nowadays, it's how many people following on social media, how many numbers you got, how many people are doing this, how many people are engaging with you. So how have you learned to adapt through the last 5 10 years with the way marketing has changed when it comes to making your presence when it comes to making a presence?
Yeah, I think, technology is ever changing, and I think it's very important for artists or just people in general to get acclimated to what's happening, to the changes that's happening. Social media has become probably the #1 tool that enables filmmakers, right, to be able to get their product out there, to get people to see it, to drive it to whatever platform that they're on at the moment. You know what I mean? So for me, it was just, I've always been good with that transition. I'm not afraid of change.
Okay.
So when I saw how Instagram and Facebook and all of these things were starting to intertwine in our everyday movements, it just made sense to just join in and get with the program.
So it didn't become daunting or irritating?
No.
So you fell right into it? Okay. Do you feel like, because you look good, and they say black don't crack, but so you're not in that baby boomer sector?
No.
Okay. So how does it work when people around you are in that area and you're trying to, as a boss, get the folks to come on your team to understand? Because one thing as a boss, you understand the concept and how to maneuver, but that doesn't mean your team always does.
Right.
So does the team change, or do you still become this one-man show that you're doing everything?
No. See, in this game of entertainment, there is no one-man show. Everything is a team. There's no way that you could do it by yourself. For me, I think educating is very, very, very important to show people what exactly they need to do. I know, some people you can just kind of say, here, take this and do what you need to do. But then other people, right, you have to coach them, you have to teach them, you have to, just really guide them as to what it is that they need to do to enable to use this technology in the right way. So with me, I'm very patient.
Okay.
I'm extremely patient, like maybe to a fault, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but that's helped me to deal with a lot of people. That's helped me to help people understand where the business is today. I talk to filmmakers all the time, and I think as filmmakers, what happens is that we're so interested in the art of what we do that we don't really think about the technology. We don't think about the business.
Right.
Right? And so I'm constantly preaching business and technology to them all the time, and how important it is for them to constantly be out there promoting and showing and just, being an advocate for their product all the time.
Being an advocate for their product all the time.
All the time.
All the time. When you started to seep into seeing something was wrong back in 2012, where was the business at that time?
2012, I was green.
Okay.
I was super green.
Okay.
I didn't even know that I was going to be where I'm at today.
Wow.
I had no clue. I literally woke up one day and said I want to do a film. And I started on that journey. God started putting me with certain people, and it was like, okay, here. My first film was A Tie Never Broken, which is a vignette of that I made of a moment with me and my pops. My dad was tying his tie, and I was a small kid watching him. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? And he started to show me. So I reenacted that same moment with my son in the film. And it was all about showing kids how to be patient, that if they persist and they keep doing what they have to do, that eventually they get it, right? We entered that in the Obama contest, and it didn't win, I'm sorry, it came in second place.
Amen.
So that was
first out the box.
Yeah,
okay.
First out the box. So that was the indication to me that, okay, I need to look into this a little bit further.
Okay.
And then I just started to fall in love with the whole art. And coming from music, it's really not that different.
Right. Because you were telling stories as a musician, in videos,
Right,
and in songwriting. Right. So now you're just changing it to the imagery, telling that video now into a short, turning that short into a movie.
Right, right.
Do you have a favorite medium?
No, I just think for me it's the creative process. It's being able, it's the inception of the thought.
Okay.
And then going through the process and then seeing the end result. for me.
So I meant to ask you, when you was going through that moment or realizing that something was happening and you were becoming a filmmaker and kind of green, how did that like internally, like I guess, affect you when it came to like projects? Like, were you telling yourself, I'm done, I don't want to do this, I want to give up? Did that ever come into like, ever at a moment, like, have you had a 9-to-5 before? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, but you say absolutely,
but some people don't.
Right, Alethea is about to be 60 and never had a job in her life. You know what I'm saying? So it's not always the case.
That's true.
So being that you've had a 9-to-5 and been a boss, then what happens on those days that you want to give up, or do you have those days that you?
No, that's never even crossed my mind. Giving up is not something that I wasn't built for that, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like for me, when I come across these obstacles or these roadblocks that they want to call, I keep it moving. That's why I call my fast forward film. Everything is about moving forward for me. I don't think about the problem or what happened. I always think about the solution.
Have you always been like that?
I've always been like this.
How important is using God in that thought process or in that thinking when it comes to your decision making?
Oh, it's super important. I'm an extremely spiritual person, so you know, I was brought up that way.
Okay.
On a different level.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So for me, I know that everything that's being done, I'm not doing it on my own.
Do you really?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Amen.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into a segment I'm going to share with you because it was directed to you, because people were excited about you coming on this show.
Okay.
So we have a segment called the Inbox Question.
Okay.
So the Inbox Question usually is local residents, you know. We do every so often get some outside folks. But locally, we got an Inbox Question from Bill out in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And he wanted to know, wait, let me, so I don't mess up the question. Right, Bill from Brooklyn, how do you manage life and work? And I guess life really, because you did mention you're a husband and a father. So I really, because I don't want life to be general, like how you manage your friends and everything. No, how do you manage home and work?
So for me, I really separate the two.
Okay.
I don't really put my family life or my personal life into my business. I know people like, well, how do you do that, right? Right. For me, it's like, so there's a lot about me that people won't really know because I don't reveal that to just everybody.
Okay.
I was always taught, when you walk into a room, my dad taught me this. My dad said, when you walk into a room, don't be the first one to speak. Listen, observe, see what's going on first. So the people that speak are the people that speak like immediately, or you always know where they're at.
Okay.
You don't really want to do that. Like, you kind of just want to observe your surroundings and kind of see what's what. I've just always been like that.
Okay.
So anytime I'm in a room, I'm always observing before I start to speak to anybody.
Okay.
That's just my movement. And so I do that in life.
Okay.
Literally.
It's funny, because when I was stalking you on social media, I was like, is he married? You know what I'm saying? And then when you recently went on vacation, I'm like, well, who's he with? You know what I'm saying? And I said to Alethea, I was like, and to me, that's like something to celebrate.
Not easy.
Hello, I can't even imagine.
No. Marriage is not an easy thing. It's definitely something that you have to work on.
But 22 years is definitely something to celebrate.
Absolutely.
So when I finally did see the picture of the wife, I was like, I felt happy, to see that there was someone in your life. So I guess that's why, out of all the questions, I wanted to bring that question up, because I do find it to be, challenging. Someone who's been, self-employed and a business owner, and going through these different variables of my business, being a mother, a wife, a girlfriend, all these different things sometimes affects your relationships when you have a goal or you running a business. I remember, I was at the Women Business Chambers a few years back, and a woman millionaire was telling me the same story that men millionaires tell me, that they're usually not successful with marriage until like their third one. After like they've gotten their business and their careers, everything off the ground, because of how difficult that grind has to be, and then still trying to cultivate these additional relationships that's just as important. But because you have this tunnel vision goal type of thing, sometimes without realizing it, these relationships begin to suffer. So I'm always curious to see, you know, when folks are so much involved, especially with as many things that you're involved with, how do you balance the two? So yeah, you keep it separate maybe when it comes to people knowing about your life, and at home you keep it separate, but I know that when I get home, I'm still checking emails, I'm still checking social media, I'm still checking. So you keep it separate how? When you're running all these different things, how do you come home and say, okay, at 9 o'clock, I'm not taking any calls?
So I think also the key to it is that the person that you're with has to understand that. They have to have a full understanding of who you are and what you do. My wife is extremely supportive of my movements and what I do. And she has her own life. She has the things that she does as well. You know, she's an entrepreneur as well, you know. So, I mean, I think when you understand that and you're in the relationship and you can support each other in that, I think it just makes it easier for you to navigate.
Okay. What last words of advice, if any, do you have for two audiences? And talking to that camera. The audience, because I do think it's very important for business owners to be able to figure out how to balance life and life and work. I find that to be very difficult with us. What advice would you give, once again, to folks about how to balance life, home, and work?
So I feel that as an entrepreneur, it's extremely important for you to understand the difference between what is going on in the business world and what's happening in your personal world. And I think that when you're able to invite the person, your significant other, your wife, or you know what have you, into that world and allow them to understand, you know, what you do, I think that makes for better communication. I just think being transparent is very important as well. As to, you know, not, you know, every movement that you make, because if you're making a whole bunch of moves, it's very hard to do that, right? But just, you know, include that individual. You know, I notice that when I come home sometimes and I talk to my wife about certain things that I'm doing in my, you know, in my career, she feels good about that, you know, and she'll give me some advice maybe that I might not get from a colleague because she has a different perspective.
I know I said I had that I wanted you to speak to the audience directly about that, so thank you for that. How do you manage being so fine and your wife being okay with you being in these streets? Like, how do you make sure that she's okay? Because the one thing I do notice, when I was married, people did respect black love. You know what I'm saying? People did respect black family. So I didn't really get a whole lot of people trying to come at me and my husband. They respected and wanted to see that type of imagery. So I'm sure that you probably get a lot of that. But at the same time, unfortunately, we live in this world where folks don't always support what's positive, you know what I'm saying, just for their own stuff. So I'm curious, as we end this beautiful conversation that you have blessed us with, because they always think it's a woman thing, you know what I'm saying, like, oh, how do you know, you got all these men after you, you know, and my boyfriend is fine as fuck, and I always be like, it's your girlfriends, you just, you know, projecting what you get, it's not really me. But how do you make sure that your wife stays confident in her role with an attractive husband, man, partner who is actively out and about with the opposite sex?
Wow, that's a great question. You know what? Me and my wife never really had issues like that. Like literally, I remember times like driving in a car, and I might see a woman that's attractive, and she see it too, and she be like, she's a bad joint right there. You know what I'm saying? So we don't really have that kind of, you know, that kind of relationship. My wife is not a jealous woman. You know, she fine. So I mean, you know, it is what it is. Like, you know, we both kind of hold the same title in that in that situation. Like they call us the Will and Jada of Brooklyn.
Really? Wait.
Well, not. Yeah,
okay,
no,
I get it.
not that. But you know what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what's up. Okay, good. I was glad to hear that because I am a big supporter of Black love, but I always wonder how attractive couples still navigate and maneuver through the outside world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I just also think, you know, it's really up to the individual. Like I really pride myself in making sure that my wife understands that she's number one. Like that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like even when I got married, I was raised this way. My mother said, I am no longer your number one, I'm number two, your wife is your number one.
Amen.
And so that, you know what I mean? It kind of just, it's instilled in me. That's what it is.
And 22 years later.
Amen. Well, 24 together, 22 married.
But that's what's up. And a good, unfortunately, but fortunately, another positive example for your son.
Yeah.
You know? So what's your last final, because I know you on the press junket right now, and you're talking about Sweet Burn, and you're talking about Tubi television, you're talking about all these different things. So I ain't touching those things for real. Because I wanted to get the personal Omarr. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I wanted to get, and it's funny because I was telling Omarr, my first boyfriend at 10 years old was a Puerto Rican black man. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Daniel Soriano. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. But what's your final thoughts to our audience? What do you want them to know? I know you want them to follow your films, but tell them, what do you want them to know? What do you want them to do? You got 2 minutes.
So
what's on the checklist?
Well, definitely follow. You know, follow all my social medias: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. They're all Omarr A Salgado, and that's Omarr with 2 R's: Omarr A Salgado. And if you're an aspiring artist, filmmaker. You know, you have a film and you're thinking like, you know, I don't know where to go with it. I'm not sure what to do. You know, what's my next steps? I am always going to be there for the independent filmmaker. It is an extremely difficult process once you're finished with your film and doing what you need to do to figure out what's that next step. And there are so many different doors that can be open, but you got to be careful which one you knock, because they're not all some of these doors they're not too kosher.
Open, which one you knock.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so I really pride myself in being a man with integrity and you know, and honesty, and I'm transparent about the process. So I'm always here. You DM me, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to answer you. I'm going to talk to you. All my filmmakers, they have my personal phone number. I don't give them nothing like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they get to me, they have access to me. You know what I mean?
I'm a testimony to that. I DM'd you, and you DM'd me back.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Like, this is, you know, we you know, this community, we need to support each other. We need, if we don't do it, then who else is going to?
Amen. So on that note, guys, it was worth the wait, wasn't it? It was worth the cancellations. It was worth the Wi-Fi not working. It was worth all that. I'm speechless. I don't have any words, just being humble and being grateful that I got this opportunity and that you guys got this opportunity. So once again, everyone, don't forget, join us right back here next week, the next chapter where we discuss Shades of Grey. I am your host, once again, Minister Cat, a.k.a. Kitty Rose. Until next time, continue to be safe out there. Once again, it's your girl, Cat. Bye, everyone.
If it seems we get busy, it's cause we actually do. Take a look into my eyes, let them take you to the side. Meet my ride or die, Shay and I. Thankful for my sisters by my side who held me down during dark times. Many train rides I took to get $1 for a rhyme. A luggage in the sign, me while on my mind. I'm thinking I should be on my prime. It ain't easy, but regardless, I'ma thrive. It's that spirit in me, NYC, baby. Gucci Pito on the corner, but we stay hungry. First come lawyers and that real life. life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit, that real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit, that real life grit from the heart of the city is